Starting. Okay, I think that we're live. Yes, we are. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. It takes a couple of minutes for everyone to sort of join. We're going live tonight on Flexible Working People Facebook group, and we're also going live tonight in LinkedIn. So if you are starting to join, give us a little thumbs up and let us know you're here. Say hello, type a hello in the comments. If you are thinking about becoming a VA, right? Yes, I'm thinking, or tell us a bit about why you're here. That would be really lovely. We can see why you're here in the comments and what you'd like to get out of tonight. I'm really excited. We've had lives with Pink Spaghetti before. Some of you will be quite familiar with Caroline, but really excited to have Emily and Ashley here. Tonight's session is a bit different because normally we talk about Pink Spaghetti and what it is and how it works, and we'll be doing a little bit of that too. But what we wanted to do tonight was a little bit different because Emily and Ashley are quite new into their Pink Spaghetti journeys. They're both training and setting up their franchises, and they're both quite new to it. And we just thought it would be a really good idea and really lovely to get some actual franchisees live in the group to talk to you about their experiences, because it's one thing hearing about it from Caroline and me. Obviously, they're a partner of ours and we feel really passionately about what they do. And we've had a number of Flexible Working People, members of our community, already join Pink Spaghetti who are thriving. And I think the last live we did was with one of the franchisees who came from Flexible Working People. And I think, Ashley, you did too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
So we love that. So it's fantastic to have both of you. But Ashley, because you came from Flexible Working People, we thought it'd be lovely to bring you in to talk to the community about your experiences. So Caroline is the co-founder and managing director of Pink Spaghetti. And Ashley, do you want to give us a wave so we know who you are? Your name's up, but there's Ashley and Emily. As I said, they're both quite early in their journeys, and they've both made the leap from employment into setting up their own businesses and not becoming a VA, but setting up their own virtual assistant business within the Pink Spaghetti franchise. And for those of you who don't know much about Pink Spaghetti, just to give you an overview, it's an incredible opportunity really for people looking to start their own businesses and enjoy more flexibility in their careers, but also by being supported. So Pink Spaghetti is a supported virtual assistant model where you can set up your virtual assistant business knowing that you've got support of other franchisees, a business model, training, and a network. But you still have total control over how you work, when you work, etc. So it's a really great way for you to set up your own business without feeling very alone. And I know that there are plenty of people joining tonight who are sitting on that fence, whether like, do I go it alone, or what are the benefits of joining a franchise? And really that's what tonight's about. We wanted to answer some of those questions and hear from the franchisees why they decided to join a franchise and to invest in a franchise rather than going it alone, and what that has meant for them and how that's helped them and where they are. And I think they're both very happy to be very honest. So we welcome questions. We have had, I don't know, 75, 80 questions come in. So we've had a lot of interest and engagement prior to the event, and we've sent all of the questions over to Pink Spaghetti. We're not going to be able to cover all of them individually tonight, but when we looked at them, there were some common themes, and there are lots of questions that you've asked, but we will answer all of them. If not tonight, then I know that Caroline has got a plan to either contact you directly or for you to contact them to set up discovery calls or conversations for you to ask any questions that you want. They're a friendly bunch. So I'm going to stop talking now and get into it. But before I do, Caroline, I just thought I would just hand over to you, maybe to give a little overview of why you set up Pink Spaghetti and what it is, and from your perspective.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Katie, and hello everybody. So I set up Pink Spaghetti 15 years ago with a friend of mine, Vicky, and we both had a corporate life but had young kids, needed something that's far more flexible, had loads of transferable skills, so we thought we'd give this a business idea a go. And we learned lots, made loads of mistakes, always said we would never have done it if it wasn't for each other. And we built the business and we started employing people. We took franchise as an option to expand the business because we'd had each other. We felt that we were then able to offer that to other people who perhaps were doing it alone. But we've always been really clear about the flexibility of the model. Flexible working for us has been so important throughout our careers. It's given us a totally enhanced life. It's given our kids enhanced life. And we've kind of battled against the fact that people think you do have to be full-time, you do have to, be in a corporate environment. And we've built the business and kind of proved that that's not the case. And I know obviously Katie feels that too. So we're now 15 years in, we've got just over 50 franchisees. And what we didn't realise we were going to be creating is, yes, flexible, but there is so much demand out there. It's not just a self-employed VA, it is running a business. So there's a lot of business skills as well, helping small business owners that are amazing and really, really friendly. But our network of franchisees, of like-minded people that are all in the same position, are fantastic. And I'm sure that Ashley and Emily will sort of start to tell you what's behind the scenes a little bit, but the network are so supportive. There's so much knowledge out there. That's our superpower really, and we're really lucky.
Amazing, thank you. And I think that's the key, and you just nailed it there, which is there's so much demand for it, and that people sort of go and think about becoming a VA because they're using their skills, their VA skills, but they don't realise all the other stuff that goes around it, which is the running a business, and that's the bit where the value comes in. Okay, so let's start with Emily and Ashley. Bring you both in. I'd love to hear from both of you. I know everyone would like to hear a little bit about what made you take that step towards becoming a VA. What were you doing before? And what led you to think about setting up on your own? Should we start with you, Ashley?
Okay. So in my previous life, I was an accountant / risk analyst in financial services. It got to the point where I was getting burned out, and I knew I had to do something differently because I had health issues and I took a lot of time off work. So that's when I started looking into maybe freelancing, and I didn't want to be an accountant full time. What can I do? So it came down to the transferable skills that Caroline mentioned, really good at organizing, really efficient, all sorts of things. So that's how I came across Pink Spaghetti through the Flexible Working People newsletter, because obviously I wanted something flexible. I signed up. And here I am.
Amazing. Okay, we'll come back to you and hear more, but let's just go to Emily and hear what you were doing and what led you to Pink Spaghetti.
Sure. So I've been a project manager for most of my career, and more recently in operations. I've worked in sort of digital agencies and sports media businesses. I was in my last role for about 11 years. And while I was enjoying it, and it was fairly flexible, it was, it was comfortable, it was, it was a good job, I think I got to a point where it wasn't filling me with joy. And I left that job at the beginning of this year and actually found this opportunity through Flexible Working People as well. I was signed up to the newsletters. I did, yeah. So I signed up to the newsletters, saw it, and I think there was a particular advert that I clicked through and it said, do you enjoy or are you good at doing? And then it had this list of tasks and I just went, yes, that's me. I am. I'm good at that. I love that. That's the thing I really enjoy about my job at the minute. And I went through a number of phone calls and asked lots and lots of questions and thought about it and decided not to and went back to it and then talked myself out of it and back into it again. And eventually, bit the bullet and went with it.
So were you thinking about becoming a VA before you saw the ad, or did you see the ad and then you thought I could do that?
Honestly, I didn't know VA was a thing before I heard of Pink Spaghetti.
Interesting.
I knew a PA was a thing. And I was like, I've always sort of thought that maybe that was where my skill set was, but I'd not heard of a VA. And so actually the prospect of doing it for multiple clients and, not having to be tied to one client all the time and being able to pick and choose and have lots of different people and do different work for them was really appealing.
Okay. I'm just going to ask you, just because I'm interested, You've both talked about transferable skills. So neither of you came at this as PAs. You both came at this with completely different sets of skills, which is really interesting. And so actually, it's not really a question, it's more of a statement, but I just think it's worth pointing that out, because I think that most people think that you have to be a PA or have been in admin or some other type of role. So it's just really interesting to hear your diverse backgrounds, and that actually both of you running your own businesses and doing that. Are you both relying on the skill sets that you've got in terms of what you're offering your clients? Emily,
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that I think as a VA, people maybe assume it's just inbox and diary management or, filing papers and that sort of thing. But actually, there's all sorts you could do. I've been asked to implement a new project management tool, for example, for somebody and, help them set that up. And there's some more technical aspects. So there's all sorts of things that, it doesn't matter what your skills are. If they're transferable in any way, then, you can use it somehow.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, so actually, I am going to ask you the same, because I think that's really key. I think people will be really interested in that. So what sort of work are you doing as a VA?
So it's mostly like project management, and I've also got a personal lifestyle management client who, doesn't have the time to look for restaurants, for instance, or holiday. So I gather all the information presented to them. Or it has nothing to do with accounting so far. So that's really surprising. It's mostly.
But you could lean on that if we wanted to. If you were asked for financial support, you could, because that's your skill set. So that's really interesting. I think that people don't realise actually that you can run a virtual assistant business using those transferable skills. So I'm really glad you touched on that. I'm just going to ask you now about actually joining a franchise, because I think this word franchise gets people a bit nervous. They either don't know what it is or just go franchise, what's that? And so let's just talk about that for a moment. When you heard it was a franchise and you had that conversation, did you know, Emily asked you, were you nervous about joining a franchise, or what was your sort of sense around that?
I don't think I was nervous. I think I thought the same, and everyone I spoke to goes franchise McDonald's. That's the straight up comparison. But I don't think I really knew what it involved, but it was interesting to hear about it as I was, kind of going through that process. I think, somebody asked me about why couldn't I just do it myself? And I think because I wasn't a VA, I didn't have those particular, skills already. I have transferable skills, and I haven't really ever thought about owning my own business. So the thought of a franchise, actually, when I heard about it, was really appealing, because it comes as like a package already set up for you. So it was really nice to have that sort of support and all the background thinking done for you. And I feel like I've got a head start on anyone who's sort of doing it alone, I guess.
Totally. Okay, so that's a really good point. And Ashley, what about you? What helped you decide that it was like the right move for you and a franchise was the right thing for you?
Oh, so when I was initially thinking about freelancing and working for myself as a self-employed VA or a bookkeeping person, the first place I went to was Upwork, where everyone goes, and the hourly rates were like, I can't survive on that. There must be something else, and it looks so cutthroat. And I was sat there thinking, what do I do? What do I do? When the newsletter came through with Pink Spaghetti, and I'd never heard of like a VA franchise before, like McDonald's, Starbucks. That's it, like physical shops. So it intrigued me. So I looked into it. The franchise agreement looked very scary. At one point, I did wonder, is this for me? But obviously it is, because I'm here.
Okay, we'll get to the how happy you are a bit later. So
can I add, Katie, that unlike McDonald's, and I deal a lot with franchisors and the people that have franchises all across the UK, we're unusual because we don't advertise in the franchise world, because most of our perfect people don't know about franchises. So we actually educate, in our prospectus, one of the first things we do is answer the question, what is a franchise, so that people can start that process as well as owning their own business. So we don't expect.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, because it's true. You wouldn't be looking, if you want to set up a business, you might be looking at franchises, but you're more likely, because you're looking at these transferable skills, not to be. So that's why we love working with you, because you know that the people in our community
I hadn't heard of running, business in this way. When we looked at expansion options, we hadn't. So we're well aware that there's many people out there that don't really understand.
Yeah. Okay. So the next question, which I really want to ask, and I know is on everyone's mind, is the financial investment. I always want to cover this because there is a financial investment, and then some people are put off by that. And so I'm interested to know from both of you, what was your feeling about making the financial investment? Was it a barrier? How did you get around that in your head? Kind of what was your thinking? Emily, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so I mean, obviously it's one of those things where you think, could I do this on my own? I wouldn't have to pay that money up front. Luckily for me, I'm a bit of a saver, so I had the money available to do it, which is, good for me. I'm very pleased with myself now. But I think when you really think about it, the money that you invest versus all the things you would have to pay for when setting up a business, it's really worth it. So the amount of training that we've had and support and templates and just things on the hub and all the other, sort of tools that are available to us, all of that is totally worth the amount that you pay up front. So it is an investment into a business, and there's always going to be business costs up front when you're starting your own thing. So yes, it is a chunk, and you do have to kind of be prepared to pay that out, but it's worth it in the end. You're going to pay it one way or another, I think, starting your own business. So just on that then, Caroline, why don't you jump in and just walk us through the training, what you get, what does that look like for the investment?
So the training and everything about us, we sort of, it's a bit cheesy, but it's a business in a box. You really can just turn up and it's there. So these guys, before they started their training, our team will have set up web pages, all the legal documents they need and probably haven't even thought about needing, social media, we've got business cards, we've got every single thing in the background so that when they start that training, everything's ready for them. The training is there to talk about, well, what happens if somebody asks about calendar management, diary management, social media, but it's also about running your business, because most people, 95% of people in our network, have never run their own business. So they don't know how to price, they don't know how to record keep, they don't really know who their customer is, what the services are that they're likely to sell, how do they get their message across, how do they sell. We're not very salesy because actually we add a lot of value, so we don't have to do a hard sell. In the end, we do have to get customers, so we can take them through that process. So the training goes from online training before they officially start, just to get them set up and ready and lots of different things at their own pace. The phase that you are just coming to the end of, I think, at the moment, aren't you, which is the remote, but maybe sort of 2-hour sessions with various different members of our team covering a multitude of different subjects, and an external person. You've had Catherine, haven't you, teaching you all about networking and getting your message across. She's phenomenal. And then you're about to get to the point in a couple of weeks' time where you come into the head office. I've met Ashley, but I've not met Emily. So you get to come and be with the team for a couple of days of very intense training. And that's really the end of the initial training.
How long is the training, Caroline?
Well, you see, the initial stage is about 3 months, to the point that they will come in to meet us in head office. But it does then carry on. It sort of never stops up till the end of the first year. We've got monthly training sessions. And then even in year 2, there are programs that they can go on if they want to take the business to the next level. Those with a growth mindset, we've got sort of an accelerator program. So there is a very formal training, which they're right in the middle of now, but it then just carries on, and it is unlimited support. So it might be, and I think this has happened with you, Emily, where we might not have got to a stage yet with one particular training session, but if it's needed earlier because she's had an inquiry coming in, we'll jump on a call, we'll get them there. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
So are you guys working while you're training? Are you earning any money? Are you already starting to establish your businesses, or do you sort of sit in that training mode until, Ashley, what are you doing?
So at the moment, I'm networking loads to build connections, and I've had queries through the Pink Spaghetti main website. So I'm the only one in central London, so in central London and thereabouts. Yeah, and various people just pop up from nowhere, basically. That's how I'm getting my clients at the moment, but hopefully building networks, I will get them directly from my own network.
Okay, so we'll come back to that. So for you, Ashley and Emily, kind of what's been the most valuable part of the training so far for you both?
I think, I'll jump in. Thanks. I think both of us were sort of expecting before we started that training would be on how to be a VA, because neither of us had those, we didn't know specifically what you had to do, but actually it's more about how to run your own business. And that's been really valuable because that is not something I would have known or thought about. So there's a lot of information about how to market yourself. Like Caroline mentioned, we've had the networking training from Catherine Sandland, and that was really interesting and really helpful about how to speak, how to present yourself, what kind of thing to say. It's all that sort of stuff that sort of helps you build your business and get it off the ground and running has just been, invaluable, really.
And Ashley?
Yeah, basically what Emily said. I made the decision to join Pink Spaghetti because of the support, whether it's head office or the other franchisees, the franchise network itself. And I don't think I would have started up so quickly if I'd gone it alone. So that bit is the big thumbs up for me.
So how confident now do you feel, having been through this initial stage, about setting up and running your own business? It sounds like you both feel quite supported. How confident, Emily, I was about to say both of your names. Emily, how supported do you feel?
That's our combined name. It's been, definitely. Yeah, a lot more confident than if somebody had just given me a blank slate and said, do this on your own. I definitely feel, really confident, and it's I'm ready to run a business and get going, really. So, and they know that the support team are there, and the franchisees and everybody is there to support you. So if there's any bit you don't feel confident about, it's kind of know that somebody's got your back. So that's been good.
Yeah. And it sounds like you both feel part of a community, so there's no, you don't feel isolated. And I'm just going to touch on this networking bit because it's interesting and because it's the thing that everybody wants to know, which is how do you get any business? And it sounds like you've both had some really good training in networking. Is this an area that you're surprised at, because maybe you came in thinking, how am I going to get business? And now you've had the training and you feel a lot more confident. What's your sort of feeling around that networking, getting business piece? Ashley, you've already said there are leads already coming in from the main Pink Spaghetti network. So how does that work? Ashley, do you want to let us know?
Do you want to hear more about the networking side of things?
Both. A little bit about how you feel about the networking and going after business. Does it feel comfortable for you having had the training? Because it's an area that I think not having had the training, people don't feel very comfortable about.
Yeah. So I went to my first in-person networking event before we had the networking specific training. And there I came out of it thinking, oh, I should have done this. I should have said that. Oh no, it's all going wrong. But then, then we had the networking session with Catherine, and it just gave me a better idea of how to structure, how I present myself, and how to make better connections. So the next time I went to an in-person networking event, I was a lot more confident. I knew what to say, and it was well received, I think.
I think if you don't mind me just sort of interjecting, one of the reasons that we do train is because, having been there and done that, Vicky and I, when we first learned about this thing called networking, we turned up together. We were so nervous, and we really didn't know what the aim was and who was there and all of these different things. And we learned it over a number of years and got far more confident, and actually met Catherine Sandland networking, and she's been with us working with our franchisees for about 10 years because we remember that feeling of not knowing what to do and what to get out of it. And so she does 2 sessions. You haven't yet had the second in-person session. She's going to do that with you in a couple of weeks' time. So the aim is so that we don't put people through that terrifying what do I do? And we try and cushion it a little bit with Catherine's help.
And I'll you mind if I add just to that, is saying
No.
I didn't want to do networking, and I the thought of it, filled me with dread. As I think everybody had the same thing. But I think I always thought that networking was very salesy, and that's one thing that surprised me, is actually it's just going out and having a nice chat with some people and making some friends and building good relationships, and then it sort of develops into something, and it's actually been quite enjoyable.
Okay, that's good.
Surprisingly, I didn't realise I was going to enjoy networking, because I'm an extroverted introvert, more introvert. But yeah, it's great fun. Always come out with a high.
That's amazing. Sounds like two of you were quite reticent. I mean, I'm the same. The idea of networking fills me with dread, but having a nice conversation doesn't. And so,
all you're trying to do is build relationships, find out about people's businesses, the amount of amazing people you meet, great entrepreneurs, fabulous businesses you didn't know exist. If you're an interested person, networking is not as frightening as you can see.
But where do you find these businesses? You go to networking groups?
Yeah, and they're all over the
join Pink Spaghetti and go through your training then. That sounds good.
There's loads.
There's loads. Okay. And apart from the networking, what other tools or templates or systems have you been given access to that have really helped you, that you wouldn't necessarily have had access to had you not joined Pink Spaghetti and you hadn't been part of this?
Oh, so for me, I'm not a big social media person. So I don't really post things. I just scroll on like my friend's newsfeed or whatever. But, you think Facebook, for instance. Oh, I know Facebook. I know how to use it. No, there is so much more behind the scenes. That's where the training really came into it, with all the social media platforms. And this is just one example of the social media aspect of it. That and newsletters. You receive newsletters, you never make them. So we have all the knowledge behind how to create a newsletter and what to do with them now. So it's things like this that are really beneficial, I think.
Love that. And Emily, for you?
Yeah. So Pink Spaghetti sort of provide you with a lot of suggested tools that you can use, some that we all use as franchisees, some that you can choose to use. But I think Loom's been a great one. I have come across it in a previous job, but never really used it, but found it really useful this time, where you can, record a video of your screen with your video of yourself or not. And it just helps you kind of explain things. And I tried it out. I sent a quote to a client today and recorded myself reading the details. So rather than them having to read a whole email, I could just say, let me explain what I've said. Here's the quote on the screen, talk them through it. And then they don't have to read the email if somebody's, prefers that way. So I've quite liked using that.
That's cool. I love this. Okay. So Caroline, I think we've kind of answered this already, but I think Pink Spaghetti is quite different to any other VA option or franchise option from just going freelance. Is there anything else that you sort of want to add to that, just to give a bit more flavour to?
Yeah, I think you talked about systems, and one of the main systems that we have, I think Ashley referred to it earlier, our hub, our intranet, and actually it's 3 separate intranets that really have absolutely everything that you will ever need. It's hundreds of pages, so that if you get a client and you think, well, what now? You can go to, well, the what now, with the commitment stage, and this is the sort of email you'd send, and this is how you do this, and then this is what you need to cover in GDPR. So there are lots of different ways of learning. So you can pick up the phone and go, what now? You can go to the hub. We've got Pink Academy courses, so all of our learning management system covering Facebook and everything that Emily and Ashley are doing now are all the basics, but we've got intermediate and advanced for when they're really confident with all the basics. And I think we've talked about the network. Having people around you, all the experience is worth its weight in gold. And already, I think the ladies are seeing the benefit of that. Moving forward, I think the difference would be, once people are set up and are trading, we would very much encourage that you don't just fill your hours and become a VA. You are a business owner. There are loads of opportunities out there. And I think what we probably do a little bit, and Emily and Ashley haven't got to this stage yet, is we just push and encourage and suggest going out of comfort zone. We do a lot of coaching through imposter syndrome. People get a lot of imposter syndrome in our network, really capable, confident women who suddenly think, I can't do this. So we do a lot of that mentoring and coaching. And so people see that they can become an employer, see the path, see what other people are doing and say, well, actually, that's what I want. And we'll work on a one-to-one basis with franchisees and get them there. So I think it's relationships and training.
Amazing. And actually something that you've just touched on, which I just want to go over, because I think actually it does set you apart as well, is that, you know, you just said it's not just about being a VA and doing the work. And I think running a business is very different, running a VA business. And so do you just want to just briefly touch on, like, as they grow, the franchise or the VA business, you're running a business, but then they could potentially take on associates and
actually, yeah, for us. So I said we started 15 years ago. Well, I still run our original area. So we run Mid Cheshire. I've got 12 members of staff that work. So obviously I run the franchise as well, but my team run that business. So firstly, if I wasn't running the franchise, that's where flexible and work-life balance would come in, because I've got a team running it. We're able to offer so much more to clients because we've got so many people in the business. We're not limited by what I can do. We encourage all of that. So really the building that business, and with that comes people haven't employed before. They might have managed before, but they've rarely employed before. So we've got an HR partner. We deal with all the contracts and employment law and training on that side, and all of that side. So it's it is very much all encompassing. But you can build a business to be what you want it to be, really, and that business becomes an asset. You know, if you talk about McDonald's, you know, when you have a successful business, it can be sold on. So you aren't just filling your time and then leaving that. We encourage people to have an exit strategy, which for some people might be 5 years, for other people might be 25 years. And we'll work with them on an individual basis. So they are running their own business. It's very, very different.
And you touched on the flexibility, but just to Emily and Ashley, are you creating flexible work-life balance for yourselves in your businesses now, or are you working all the hours to set up your business? What does that look like for you?
I'm trying really hard somebody gave me this piece of advice, was to make work fit around your life. So I've tried to book in the gym on various points of the day, and I can do school pickups the days I need to, and, you know, other bits and pieces that I want to do. I try and get those in first, and then I plan the rest of my day around it. So I am working a lot of hours to try and get things up and running, but, you know, I'm trying to also make sure that I've got time for me as well, and not just doing 5 days or 7 days a week flat out.
Are you Ashley?
So I think my life is slightly different to Emily's because she has children. I've never been a morning person, so I schedule my day slightly starting slightly later and then working later. And if I have to do any life admin stuff where they're only open during like 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 during the weekdays, I can just go and do it. So in that sense, it is very, very flexible. At the moment, we're training, so we have a lot of things to learn and get set up and stuff. But once this is all like finished, the main training's done. I think it'll be more time, basically.
And actually, that just shows, doesn't it, the different flexible needs.
Yeah,
you know, one wants to shift a working pattern, the other wants to get to the gym and hit the school run. And I think what we do see at this stage particularly is so many hours being put in, because it's new, it's shiny, there is a lot set up. But actually part of what we do in the support team is, after you've been on the on-site training, we look out for patterns where people are doing lots of hours and kind of almost give permission, it's all right to close that laptop. You don't have to do these hours. So we do look out for that. But yeah, when it's your own, it's
you don't care as much. So you know that if you need to go and pick up your kid or go to, the gym, or you don't like working in the mornings, you can make it work for you. And flexibility is just pretty much about having more control over your work life, and that's what you've both created for yourself, because it just fits around what you want and need. And it's great to have both of you with such different needs actually here, because it's not just about mums, it's about everybody wanting flexibility for whatever reasons that they want flexibility. So it's really good to hear that from you, Ashley. So we're running out of time, so I just wanted to finish, because you both seem really happy. I want to hear, are you really happy? You both seem really, like it's been the right decision for you.
I feel like we've got to say this because I'm here.
I'm going to say no, it's awful, but they both seem very happy. What advice would you give, both of you, to somebody thinking about becoming, setting up their own business, I should say, virtual assistant business, or thinking about whether the franchise route or Pink Spaghetti route is the route they want to take, or going it alone? Emily, what would you say?
I'd say if somebody is an organised person, if they like lists and they like admin, then life of a VA is probably for them, because it's great. There are so many people who work in different ways, people with creative brains or people with great ideas who just need the person to organize them and get things done. Well, there were people all over, my old boss was the same. He was the ideas guy. I was the get stuff done person. I would make it happen. So if you're that kind of person, I think that's, it's great, because you can actually, you get to work with lots of different people. It's really varied, and you get to help people with their business. And I think the Pink Spaghetti ethos is sort of helping small businesses and individuals, and that feels really good. That's always something I wanted, is to do something that felt like I was doing good for somebody, and it's other people in the same boat as us. So definitely go for it. And I think if you're nervous at all about starting on your own, then absolutely a franchise is a great way forward.
Okay, brilliant. And Ashley, what do you say?
So for me, if you don't want the mundane corporate, like run-of-the-mill sort of work, I think a VA is a good way to go about it, because no day is the same. There's lots and lots of variety. Like the other day, I was on the phone to a furniture company looking up something, and my husband was like, "Who are you on the phone to?" It's really bizarre. So anything can pop up in the day, and if you enjoy that kind of thing, variety, absolutely go for it. And personally, I pay for convenience. A franchise is a business in a box. It's convenient. It's all set up for you. So franchise might be the way to go for you. It's a big investment, but I think it's worth it.
And at what point does the investment pay off? So Caroline, maybe this is one for you.
Yeah. So typically people break even between month 6 and month 9. So and everybody works different hours, gets customers at different times. So there's loads of different examples. But I think it's important to say, and I'm hoping Emily and Ashley will agree, that we know it's a big decision. We know it's not for everybody, and everybody's not right for us. We've got an amazing network, and we know who fits in that network. If you ask for a prospectus, ask for a discovery call, there's no one size fits all process, and it's a two-way street. Ask any questions. I'd rather people asked absolutely every question under the sun and decided that the franchise wasn't right for them than kind of assumed or made a judgment. So you've got a really friendly, open team who will just answer questions, book a discovery call. So I'm hoping Emily and Ashley are going to say, yeah, that's okay.
We're laughing because me and Ashley always joke that we probably ask the most questions of anyone, because we just spent all of our discovery asking questions. And since we've started, all we've done is ask questions, and everyone is very willing to answer them. And what I was going to say to add to Caroline's is that it's like during the whole process, everyone has been really supportive and not pushy at all, which I really liked. It does feel everyone's quite honest about what to expect, and there was no sort of salesy pushiness or anything, which was great.
Ashley, go for it.
Yeah, I had loads of questions about the franchise agreement, and at one point support said you have to consider if franchise is the way to go for you. And it's not, they're not pushing to sell something to you. They really like try and make you feel like you're making the right decision for yourself. Yeah.
I have to say, sorry, I was just going to say, Caroline, that's why I really love working with you guys as well, because it's never been a pushy sell. You've always been very upfront about this is just got to be right for you, and it's got to be right for us, and it's not, you know, everyone who applies, it's got to fit. And
it absolutely has to fit. And you know, we will be honest about the finances. So you know, we will talk about the top end, and people are sort of turning over between 5, 10, sometimes 15,000 a month. But that takes time to get to. And you can't sometimes just leap from an employed job into this. You've got to be thinking about, how do I pay the mortgage, rent? And you will get all of that. We will make sure that you absolutely understand all the figures, the lowest that's happened, the highest that's happened, the average, so you can see them once you're into this process. And you know, you're already thinking that this is the right thing for you.
Brilliant. Okay. Well, we've run slightly over, but we've covered a lot of ground. Ashley and Emily, you've been absolutely brilliant, total stars. Thank you for sharing your stories. I'm sure people listening would have found that really helpful, just to hear from you guys kind of how it's worked, you know, what some of maybe your stumbling blocks and some of the things that you've worked through, but you both seem like you're on completely the right path for you. So that's brilliant. And Caroline, as ever, it's always lovely to share you know, your experiences of Pink Spaghetti and what you offer and all the value there. So we have had a lot of questions, as I've said. Caroline is going to go through them, and there'll be a plan to answer them. But if you are watching and you do want to just set up a call, I'm going to put a link in onto different streams so that you can just set up a call with the team and ask any questions.
Ask for a prospectus. There's stacks of information in that, and then book a discovery call.
So, okay, yeah. So first step, ask for a prospectus, read that.
Because there's loads of information in there.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time tonight. It's been brilliant. Thank you everyone for listening. Hope you found that really good and valuable. And please send any questions additionally through, and the team, I know, will be happy to hear from you. All right, everyone, have a good evening. Take care.
Great.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.